Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to share this workshop replay with you today. I hosted it with Novo. Novo is my business banking platform, and I'm actually partnering with them this quarter as one of their subject matter experts, which means I'm helping do content with them. I'm hosting workshops for them in their community. They're also public. So I do want to say I'm going to post the link in the show notes to the next workshop. If you want to join, you don't have to bank with Novo or be a part of their platform in order to join. Feel free to sign up here. I have one coming up about anti-spreadsheet money management, and then I also have one coming up about money mindset practices. There's also live Q&As at the end of each of these workshops. So if you want to come get a little coached by me because you're not seeing me on Instagram right now, come get on the live Q&A. Come ask questions. Let's chat. I would love to see you there. So I'm hosting workshops with them. So this is the first workshop that I did, and it was about riding the income roller coaster. So there's some things in this workshop that I haven't spoken about before that you might hear me articulate differently. So I want to share this with you. And also, there were some really great questions that were asked that I want you to hear the answers to as well. And I also want to say, I do have an affiliate link with Novo. It is posted in the show notes. But if you've been around here for a while, you've heard me talk about my banking platform since before I had an affiliate link, since before I was partnering with them. So I will never recommend anything that I don't personally use or personally believe in myself. So even though I do have an affiliate link, I have been recommending them for ages because, again, you've heard me talk about Ally. Again, not sponsored, just love them. But they are very similar to Ally, but in the business banking platform. So I hope you enjoy this replay. I hope to see you at the next workshop. Again, those links are in the show notes, and have a fantastic rest of your week. See you live on the Q&A. Today, we are talking about how to manage fluctuating income for creatives. The stress-free way to ride the income roller coaster. And why I wanted to choose this as a topic today is because I am a business owner with fluctuating income, and I'm also an actor with fluctuating income. And I have always been this way. I have never held a traditional 9-to-5. Before I had my own business and was paying myself my own salary, I was freelancing, right? I was doing all the different kinds of odd jobs. So I've had to ride a lot of different kinds of income roller coasters. And I think it is such an important thing that we'll get into talking about the starving artist trope here in a second, but it's so important that we stop vilifying inconsistent income and making it seem like a problem. And we start finding ways to create stability inside of the inconsistency so that we can do the things that we are clearly drawn to do and passionate about doing without having to sacrifice financial stability. Okay. So just to start, again, my name is Brooke Benson. My company is called Not Starving Artists. It is officially called Brooke Benson Coaching LLC. So I am a money coach for creatives, neurodivergents, freelancers, business owners, anyone who is self-employed, or anyone who just doesn't resonate with traditional money advice of the spreadsheet and the budget, and we're percentaging out the biweekly paycheck. If that has never resonated for you, you are in the right place. So let's start diving in. On the agenda today, I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction about me, who I am, how I got to be here, right? I'm an actor who specializes in money. Those two don't normally go together. So I'm going to give you an explanation of how I even got here. And then we'll dive into what riding the income roller coaster does to your business, to your nervous system, and why we want to get off of that roller coaster without having to go and get a W-2 9-to-5 job. So then I'm going to give you 3 practical tips. Like Stephanie was saying, we are all about tactical and practical here. I'm also a huge mindset person. We love thought work. We love manifestation. All of that is definitely in play, but we also need tactical, practical tools to make sure you have financial stability inside of the bank accounts. So the first tip is going to be about understanding your numbers. The second is about getting 3 months ahead on bills. And the third is about paying yourself consistently. Okay. And then we'll move into a little bit about Novo and also how I use Novo to specifically do the 3 practical tips that we're going to talk about today. And then we'll have plenty of time for question and answer. So I also want to say, as we're going through the presentation, I will try and be looking at the chat as we go if any questions come up, but make sure you write your questions down as we go. So then when we get to the end, you are able to ask them and they don't lose, you don't lose them inside of your brain, which happens to me all of the time. So let's make sure we remember those. All right. So I'm Brooke. I used to be a broke theater arts grad living in a trailer and having weekly panic attacks about money. And this was not like a cute van life trailer. This was like we didn't have reliable plumbing kind of trailer. And this is when I was doing all of those freelancing, those odd jobs. I was being paid so little. And I have a bent towards anxiety. And so I was having panic attacks all the time about money. And now I am a financially confident, self-employed creative, living the dream here in New York City, and I'm on track to be a multimillionaire in retirement, which used to be unfathomable for me right out of college with a theater arts degree. If you told me I was going to be on track to be a multimillionaire and running my own business, making 6 figures a year, I would have laughed in your face, right? So what happened, right? Like, what was that shift for me as a creative? I stopped budgeting. I'm an anti-budget money coach. I am vehemently against micromanaging and tracking every day and getting so into the weeds with cutting back and restricting. I'm so against that. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But I stopped that. I released budgeting. And instead, I created a simple cash flow system built for fluctuating income that takes less than an hour a month to manage. And then I worked on my money mindset. So I created a practical system to manage the income of someone who's self-employed, of an artist, because so many, when I was going through my journey right out of college, I was like, oh, all the money knowledge I learned was geared towards 9-to-5ers. And so what does it actually look like to practically manage money when it's inconsistent? And so many books and gurus and, methods treated freelancers and inconsistent income like a footnote of like, you can still budget. It just has to look a little different. So I wanted to create something that was actually built for us. All right. Why this even came about is because my luxury taste didn't align with the struggling actor, starving artist narrative. I was not willing to sacrifice either of those things. I was going to be an artist and I was going to live a lifestyle that was a dream for me. So I needed to figure out how to have both. I wasn't willing to have that sacrifice. And so with this mission, this is where Not Starving Artist, my company, came to be. Because as an artist, I was figuring out how to do this for myself. I figured it out and I wanted to share it with my people. But then what happened is it became much bigger than that. Because what I realized was that there's a lot of people who don't resonate with traditional money advice. There's a lot of people who hate budgeting. There's a lot of people whose brains who just don't gel with spreadsheets, don't gel with having to have like a daily money routine. I'm talking like if you have ADHD, if you have depression, anxiety, all of these things, which me and my clients have all experienced different realms of. If you have different things going on in your brain, or just like, life these days, right, fluctuates and is crazy and is sometimes hard to manage, you need something that can follow you through the chaotic and the busy times. So we need more feelings focused money management rather than cut back, restrict, penny pinching money management. And I'm here to do exactly that. I'm here to help other creatives, neurodivergent service providers, and small business owners become financial CEOs of their life, business, and career. So let's dive into riding the income roller coaster. Just because your income fluctuates, that doesn't mean your lifestyle has to. And I'm going to tell you a little bit why. First off, we need to acknowledge that holding consistent income as the gold standard on this pedestal of what to strive for, it's a scam, right? This comes from like back in the day where you could just bop into a 9-to-5 and it would ride you through your life and give you a nice, good, thick pension. And you could just there wasn't a huge fear of layoffs and you could just ride it, right? Consistent income. That's where this gold standard came from. But these days, having a 9-to-5 does not guarantee you financial stability. It does not guarantee you job security or safety. That's just the world we live in now. And also consistent income for those of us who are self-employed, who are creatives, you are always going to feel like you are doing something wrong with your money if consistency is what you're striving for. right? So what I want you to start reframing is that your inconsistent income isn't a problem. How you're managing it and thinking about it is what the problem is, which is what we're going to start shifting. The other thing I want to say is that nervous system regulation. I know that's like a hot button word right now. It's like all over all the articles and the clickbait, like how to regulate your nervous system. But the best way to regulate your nervous system is to have money in the bank to not dysregulate your nervous system. Okay. So when you're riding the income roller coaster, right? Your income's going up and down, right? And depending on what field you're in, what your business model is, like for me as an actor, my income, it's like 3 months I'm making a lot of fucking money. And there are months where then I'm making $0, right? So the fluctuation is wild. But with my business, it fluctuates less wildly, but I do fluctuate in my business as well. So the fluctuation is going to depend on where you sit in your business. But the key is that you are able to give yourself consistency in your day-to-day life and how you get to live, no matter what your business is doing, no matter what gigs are coming through the door. So again, there's a tip about practically how you actually make this happen, but you need to be able to give yourself that in your life. You don't want to like die early from stress, right? We want to make sure you are stress-free and regulated and also able to do what you want to do in your business. Save the drama for the stage. This is an actor principle. When I was in school and when I was early on in my career, a lot of advice that I was being given from actors who had been in the business longer than me was like, save the drama for the stage. But what that meant was make sure that your life is stable and consistent so that you can give all of your creativity and that drama and all of that stuff to your work on the stage, right? And so when we think about that in the realms of career and business and what you're building here, it's about creating stability in your life so that you can have creativity and give so much more energy to your business because you're not stressed about being able to put food on the table, right? Or being able to take that vacation with your family that you had already planned. Also, you make better decisions when you are not stressed about money. Okay. So when you're riding the income roller coaster, right? I want to take you to like, you're having a sales drought, right? You haven't signed a client in 2 months, or you are in your creative realm, right? Like your gigs are drying up. You have like one photography client that pops up every month when you're used to having like 6 or 7. When that starts to happen, you start to freak out, right? Your body goes, oh no, we're losing money. We're not making money. You start to freak out. And when you look at your bank account and you don't see the money in it to take care of you, you start to make decisions from a place of scarcity. You make decisions from a place of fear. You start getting a real grabby, graspy energy. But instead, if you have money in the bank to help you weather the storm of that income roller coaster dip, you're able to make decisions from a place of someone who's financially confident, who's not in a graspy energy, and you're actually going to make better business decisions when you're not riding that roller coaster. Again, your income can fluctuate, but you get to stay even keel. So we're going to move into tip number 1. So tip number 1 to actually create this stability for yourself in your bank accounts is to understand your numbers at a baseline level. To create safety and stability in your finances, you need to understand what it costs to live as you month to month, okay? And I want you to figure out what it costs to live as you month to month, and I want you to figure out what your business costs to live month to month to month, because those are 2 very different numbers. I want you to think about your business or your creative endeavors, how you're making money creatively, as this separate entity to you. For those of us who we have businesses that we're so passionate about, or you do have a creative craft, right? Like for me as an actor, it's so easy to feel like these things are me, right? And my business and me, we are one and we are not separated. But it is a separate entity that has its own needs and desires financially too. So I want you to figure out, what does your business need? What is the baseline amount with your upkeep costs, your baseline expenses that happen month to month, any yearly fees that you have to pay? I want you to factor those in. Know the baseline of what your business needs. And then you personally, what do you need to pay your rent, to pay your bills, to put food on the table, to have a little fun, right? We don't want to go super bare bones, but what is that baseline for you, the minimum that you need? I want you to understand these numbers deeply Okay. And then I want you to compare these to your income. So when we're talking about numbers, I don't want you getting in the weeds of like how much you're spending in each category and splitting everything up. I just want to know high level, what's your income and what is it costing to live as your business and you? And do those numbers, does the math, right? Does it make sense? Are you in the green at a high level scale? And again, when we're talking about your income fluctuating, what you can get consistent on is your expenses and the money that's going out. So that's your first thing, is to start getting consistent in what's going out so that you know how much your business can actually fluctuate while still being able to put food on the table. So then your next action item, so we're moving into the action items here. You're going to find your personal baseline. You're going to find your business baseline. You're going to compare this to your yearly income, right? And does that math? And then I want you to schedule a monthly money date to review your numbers. So every single month, I recommend doing this right at the end of the month or right at the beginning, like between the 30th and the 2nd. This is when I recommend having this money date. I want you to review your numbers from the past month. I don't want you in your spreadsheets and in your bank accounts every single day or even every single week. I want you doing it once a month because I want you to intimately understand how much your money is fluctuating as you go throughout the year. So that's your first tip. Second tip, get 3 months ahead on bills because a late invoice payment should not affect your ability to pay the bills for the month. I don't want a client payment or, again, the creative industries are fiends with this, right? They're like, you'll be paid within 30 days and then it's 90 days and they still haven't sent your invoice in. That literally happened to me for a check that I was supposed to get for a commercial I did. They were 90 days late getting me that check. But I want you to have 3 months of cash in the bank to pay your bills for 3 months sitting there available for you. So if something like that happens, that you're not stressed about keeping the lights on, that you're not stressed about being able to move forward, right? This, Joe Schmo who's late on paying your invoice should not determine your ability to feed yourself well or your ability for your business to keep going. Do not give a client or a company that kind of power over your financial wellness, okay? So getting 3 months ahead on bills means that those baseline numbers that we just talked about here, your personal baseline and your business baseline, you're going to have that sitting in a bank account. So for your business, let's say it costs your business $5,000 a month to continue to run, right? To keep the lights on. That means in your business bank account, we're going to talk about reserves in a second, which is one of my favorite Novo features. You're going to have $15,000 sitting in a bank account for your business in case your income dips or in case there's a late invoice, right? The other thing you're going to do is in your personal life, I want you to create a personal savings account for that as well. So let's say it costs you $3,000 a month to live as you month to month to month. That means you're going to have $9,000 in a savings account titled 3 months ahead on bills in your personal money ecosystem. And you're going to have the same kind of savings account in your business ecosystem for $15,000 or plug in whatever numbers those are. So what I also want to say here is, do you see how I'm talking about these as two separate financial ecosystems? You have your business banking and you have your personal banking. You have your business savings and you have your personal savings. You want to separate these as much as possible because that's what makes it easy to get off of that like crazy income roller coaster, because you can give yourself stability in your own financial ecosystem. Even if your business is going up and down and going crazy, you know that you can still pay yourself, right? Because you want to add in what you're paying yourself from your business as part of that business baseline. You can still pay yourself for 3 months, even if you make no money in your business. So what this means, how you actually do this, you're going to set up a reserve inside of Novo, or if you have a different bank account, you could just open a separate savings account. But Novo makes this really easy with their reserve feature. So this is like an actual screenshot of my bank account with Novo. You see, I have all of these different reserves. So these are buckets, basically, for pockets of money that you want to earmark for something else. So I have an on-deck buffer. My business overhead costs $2,500. Okay. So that times 3 is $7,500, which means I have 3 months of bills sitting here in my business checking account waiting for me, titled, so that if ever my income dips or I need to pull money money because I don't have enough in my main checking account, I can do so. Okay. So that is how you get 3 months ahead on bills. And that's exactly how to use Novo to earmark that. Then number 3, I want you to pay yourself consistently, because a slow season in business should not require you to start couponing and pinching pennies. We know that industries have slow seasons. We know that sometimes the market isn't good. We know that sometimes things just happen and you have a month where you don't make as much. Like, these things happen. If you are self-employed, that is what you are signing up for. Okay. So paying yourself consistently is key here. So what I want you to do is I want you to decide your minimum monthly payout. And I'm going to talk about if you're on salary, because there's 2 different ways you pay yourself. If you are not an S corporation, if you are an LLC, or you are a sole proprietor, and also if you don't know what either of those 2 things mean, but you are making money outside of a W-2, you are a sole proprietor in the eyes of the IRS. That just means you provide your own services and get paid for them. Okay. So if you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, you take what's called an owner's draw. What an owner's draw is it means you are pulling money from your business bank, from your business ecosystem, paying yourself into your personal ecosystem. Okay. That's an owner's draw. So if you're on salary, which if you are an S corporation, and again, if you are in this tier, you have a CPA that's helping you with this, your CPA has told you what your reasonable salary should be. You put yourself on salary, but that salary number is purely based on like taxes and math calculations inside of the business. It's not necessarily going to be the amount you want to pay yourself every single month. So for example, my salary is lower than what I need to live month to month to month. So I get paid my salary every month, but then I also take an extra owner's draw so that I'm still paying myself what I need to live every single month. So that's what I wanted to note about the salary. So you need to decide once a month how much you need to live as you month to month. Again, going all the way back to tip number 1, this is why it's so important to understand your numbers. You're going to take that personal baseline. Let's say it's $3,000. That's what it costs to live as you. You might decide based on the health of your business and what you're able to pay yourself, you might decide that you want to pay yourself $4,000 a month so that you're going to spend the $3,000 on rent, on food, on gas, whatever. But then you have $1,000 that then you get to put into your personal savings account in order to start building up, getting 3 months ahead on bills in your personal life, right? So that's what I mean by deciding what your minimum monthly payout is going to be. I do not want you moving money more than once a month. Something I see all the time, especially with people who have a lot of business income fluctuation or creative income fluctuation, it feels like you just want to keep it all in the one checking account and you only want to touch it if absolutely necessary, because you never know when the next check is coming in and what if sales dry up, what if whatever. And so you just leave the money in that account. And what happens is you just pull as little as you can a couple of times a month. And whenever your personal checking account gets low, you pull a little more from your business checking account, but we just want to keep it all in there. But what happens when you do that is it muddies up really being able to understand what you need to live and what your business needs to live and what you're actually pulling, what you're actually spending if you're doing it like little by little by little. What this does is our bodies are a lot more comfortable with small dollar amounts, but you're a business now, or you are making more money now, right? Like if you're in this realm, if you're on this presentation, you're playing with more money than you used to think was possible. And so you need to start calibrating to bigger chunks of money. So again, pulling $4,000 one time a month is the same as pulling $500 8 times a month, right? But the $4,000 once a month is very intentional, where the 508 times a month, or however it ends up getting split up with how you pull it, is going to be more chaotic and it's going to give you less clarity around your money. Again, I want to say here, you can use your on deck buffer. That is what it is there for. So again, if I'm paying myself, right, 2,500 is what I need, my business needs to live month to month. But if for whatever reason I don't have that amount, I can still pay myself what I normally pay myself because I'm 3 months ahead on bills, because I have the money in my on deck buffer, so that my personal lifestyle, your personal lifestyle, does not need to suffer if you end up having a sales dip, okay? So you can use your on deck buffer. That's what it's there for. This is also, I want to go back to this reserve feature. This is why it's so important to have multiple reserves. This is why just having one business savings account doesn't make sense, because you need to have so many different kinds of savings, so many different buckets of money for your business than just savings. I want you to rethink what savings mean. Savings is a verb. That is not a noun. I don't know when we started saying saving as a noun. That is a verb. Savings is the umbrella verb term for the actual things you want to be putting monies towards. So I want you to see how specific mine are here. So I have investments, like I'm going to do a rebrand and get a logo done in the near future. So I have an investments reserve. I have to pay myself a rent reimbursement at the end of the year because I'm an S corporation and I run my business out of my home. So I have a reserve for that. My CPA, I pay her once a year, reserve for that. Taxes, estimated taxes. I put 25% of my profit away every single month into this taxes bucket so that when my CPA sends me my thing, she's like, send me your P&L. Here's what you owe. I'm not like, oh no, where is that money going to come from? It's right here in my taxes reserve, baby. So I can just pull that money and send off my taxes. And I am telling you, since I started my business and I have implemented this, like putting money aside for taxes, I have never been stressed about a tax bill because it is always sitting there in my account. I'm never overspending, right? Because I see how much I need to take out of taxes. Super important. And then also my on deck buffer, right? 3 months ahead on bills. So this versus having one business savings account that's just titled business savings, all that's going to do is it's going to make you feel guilty or stressed anytime you pull money out of it. And you might just end up hoarding money in there, or you end up not really putting money in there because you don't really know what it's for. The specificity that the reserve feature gives you, incredible for understanding the financial health of your business. Okay. Implementing these three things, just implementing these three things is going to give you the consistency of a biweekly paycheck without the downsides of being employed by someone else, right? Like the micromanaging boss or the water cooler talk. You've chosen to be self-employed for a reason, or to have a portion of your life making your own money and having a business, being a creative for a reason. So the other tactical thing I want to say here, and why it's so important to understand your numbers, is that on the months where you're on the high end of the income roller coaster, you're going to take anything that is above your baseline, any surplus, any extra you have, and you're going to put it into your business savings, or you're going to pay yourself a bonus so that you can buffer your personal savings, right? Or do whatever else you want with the surplus. But what those high months are going to do is it's going to buffer you for those lower income months, right? So it's giving you that same kind of consistency, right? Like if a W-2 paycheck, this is their income, for you, you go way up, but you're going to take the way up amount and you're going to put it down here so that when you have the lower months, you can bring yourself back up to baseline. This is what I'm saying, that regulation, that nervous system, that stability and that ease. But you have to understand your numbers in order to know what you have as surplus, okay? Then you're going to have the savings account sitting there ready for you for when you do have an income dip or something else happens, right? And then you're going to pay yourself consistently. So you're never having to go into like that ramen diet when your business has a slow season. So now I want to talk a little bit about Novo. I've been talking a lot about Novo's reserves. This is my favorite feature with Novo. And when we talked about bank accounts, I know I've mentioned, right, your business financial ecosystem and your personal financial ecosystem. So my personal bank account is held somewhere else that also has a bucket feature in their savings account. So I do this inside of my personal ecosystem as well. This is what I teach all of my clients when we're managing their money and when we're setting up their money flows, their cash flow system. Having this reserve system, this bucket system is imperative. So it keeps all of your funds in the same account, which, especially when you become an S Corp and you're having to do a balance sheet, right? And see all the ins and outgoings of all of your money, it gets way more complicated when you have multiple accounts open. So actually only having the one bank account where you can visually see how your money's all split up, but it's only just one bank account that your accountant or your bookkeeper or you are having to track. Phenom. You can have up to 20 reserves to organize, prioritize, and optimize your funds. Like, again, the example I just showed you. And you can automate and manually update transactions for budgeting and bookkeeping, like I was mentioning. And you can also set up a rule to automatically assign a percentage of future income to a certain reserve. So this is really great if you want to split up your money. If you're like, okay, I know right now my priority is putting 25% away for taxes, you could literally set it up to automatically just go into that reserve, into that reserve. So now, so this is just another overview of how it actually looks on the desktop and how to actually set one up. Again, you can create a reserve. This is what it looks like when you list them out. You can also manage these on the mobile app, which is great as well. Again, so many of us are managing all of our things on our phone these days, so it's great that there's an app as well. So also statements. Stephanie, if you want to jump in here too, if there's anything I'm not covering as we're actually going through all the Novo features, you can let me know. But this is just, again, a really great feature to be understanding your business's financial health. The thing I'll say about it here too is as creatives, and also if you started a business about something you were passionate about, but you weren't necessarily passionate about business, I myself included, right? Having to rewire your brain to prioritize financial health and the business side of the thing that you're doing, right? Like, I love coaching on money, of course. So like, I'm a financial brained person already, but running a business and all of the nitty gritty stuff that goes on behind the scenes is something I had to learn, right? And now I coach my clients on it, but it's something you do have to learn. So having statements like this and being able to see things at this high level, right? Like, you can see here the balance, the income, the expenses. You can see all of that at that high level. Important that you have easy access to, again, those high level numbers to understand financial health, especially if you're a creative that tends to shy away from that sort of thing. There's also apps and integrations. I actually use Wave. This is my bookkeeping software, which is so great. So there's integrations and things. My Novo account is actually linked up to my bookkeeping software. So it automatically imports all of my statements, which again, makes it really easy. Part of the money flow method that I teach my clients, which is the cash flow system that takes less than 1 hour a month to manage, part of that is having things automated and simple and easy. Again, as creatives, as people who started businesses because we're passionate about the thing we're doing, not necessarily wanting to nerd out about spreadsheets and the financial health of the back end of your business, you want to make sure that everything is so simple and organized and systemized for you. And that doesn't mean it has to take hours and hours and hours. Like, the integrations here and the automations that you can set up, so simple. They get to be so simple. There are people out there who like nerd out about this stuff and love it, that will make it seem so complicated because for them it's fun to be in the complicated weeds of it. We don't have to go there. Okay, so again, I've been hyping up Novo. Before I became a subject matter expert, I have been using Novo. It's the bank that I recommend to my clients, again, because of the organization that it allows for you, which is in full alignment with how I teach money management and the money flow method for my clients in particular. So if you scan this QR code, this is my affiliate link. But even before I had an affiliate link, I was recommending Novo. So if you scan this, you will be able to pop on and open your bank account. Free to open. You can open one in 4 minutes. So simple. And then if you want to connect with me further, please come connect with me. I would love to hear that you found me through this. I would love to answer more of your questions. We'll get to Q&A in a second here as well. But you can find me at Not Starving Artists on Instagram. Make sure there's an S at the end of artist. Also, notstarvingartist.com. Stephanie popped my website link into the chat earlier, so you can find it there as well. And then I also have a podcast called the Not Starving Artist Podcast. You can find that on YouTube, you can find it on Apple, and you can find it on Spotify. All of these links, if you go to my Instagram bio, all of these links are there. So you can find all the links to the podcast channels. You can find my website. I also offer one-on-one coaching. So if you'd like to work with me privately, set up your own personalized cash flow system, learn how to manage your business and personal finances separately and simply, and start to develop a healthy, supportive relationship with money that feels fun, simple, and sexy, that is what what we do inside of my one-on-one money mentorship. So you can find more details about that on my website, notstarvingartist.com. And there's a page called One-on-One Money Mentorship where you can see testimonials from past clients. I have full interviews with tons of them, so you can hear all about the different kinds of ways you manage money, different businesses, different creative acts, and how money ties into all of it, as well as all of the package details and things of that nature. And then from there, you can book a sales call with me. So there's a link to then get on my calendar, and sales calls are free. They are no obligation. It's a chance for us to talk with each other, for me to understand the goals and the things that you want out of your money. I'd line out a plan for you of exactly how we'd accomplish those goals together. And then we can decide if it is a good fit or not. So that is how you connect with me. Again, also something to note, I am on an Instagram hiatus until 2025, but please DM me because I'll be responding to all of my DMs in 2025. Let me know that you found me here. You can also get on my email list. Again, the links are on my website and on Instagram. Get on my email list and you can send me an email as well. We can use those as like the old school DMs, right? When we just like replied to emails and we didn't have DMing. So you can connect with me there as well. All right, everyone, I'm going to leave this up and let's talk questions. What came up for you all? What do you want to know? What was confusing? What are you personally going to take away from this? Questions. What is the fee that Novo charges to use their system? None, $0. $0 fee to use their system. So Novo is a bank account. Again, Stephanie, feel free to jump in here too. But Novo has no fees. This is a huge thing that I tell all of my clients. If you are paying fees, any kind of fees, at your bank, you are at the wrong bank. There are so many options that are fee-free that don't charge you anything to utilize. And I also want to say the banks that are like, it's fee-free if you meet this and this requirement. And a lot of times those requirements are minimum balances that you have to have in your bank account and also a certain amount of direct deposit happening. So before I became an S corporation, I didn't have a direct deposit, right? So I was actually going to be paying fees to use a certain business bank because I wasn't on salary yet. And also because of how I wanted to organize my money and how I recommend all of my clients organize their money, those account balances, you didn't want to be stressed about like, okay, if I have to pull money out of my savings to be able to do this thing or pay for this thing, I don't want to get hit with a penalty because I had to utilize that. So you should not be paying fees. Novo does not charge fees. It's one of the reasons that I recommend them. Great question. Yes, thank you. Referring all of your USA friends. Fantastic. I also want to say too, I work with a lot of clients who are not based in the US because a lot of the stuff that I coach on around money is more about how you manage it and how you think about it, which is universal, right? So even if you're not able to use a specific bank or make a specific investment, a lot of what my coaching and my company centers around is what are the options that are available to you and how can we utilize those in order to give you the cash flow system that you need. It's an agnostic cash flow system. You can plug it in anywhere. And then also the emotional side and the mindset side of money is universal. That is not USA specific. So again, why I recommend Novo is because it's a great option that is based here that we can just plug you in really easily. But again, this is not a cash flow system that is tied to a specific banking system.
And I wanted to ask, well, first of all, thank you so much for all that great like mindset information, that context, but also like practical, actionable tips to shift not just the about the flow and handling bringing in more money or how to, but really like what the foundations need to be. I think was what I really appreciated and took away most. So I just wanted to ask, in your experience, what is kind of a reasonable amount of time to kind of give yourself to, as you said, but especially with the saving the 3 months, like what's kind of a time to give yourself to allow those reserves to build up or to really like build that foundation?
Great question. So I actually see a lot of people put themselves on such a tight timeline where it's like, I need to be 3 months ahead on bills yesterday. Why am I not there yet? Right? There's such a rush energy. So what I want to say about this is, depending on your income and what it costs to live as you, based on your numbers, the math will look different for everyone. So I've had clients who were able to get 3 months ahead on bills that day just by reorganizing how the money was in their bank accounts. And I've had clients who it took a year to build up those reserves because they were maybe paying off debt as well, or also having other goals like the holidays are coming up. You're not going to not spend money on the holidays. So you have to do that while you're also building up your savings. So the timeline is going to look different. But what you can know is you could literally plug in the math of it and how long it could take you. So I had a client who she's an actor, but she also has a couple of day jobs that fluctuate. Her income fluctuates a little bit. So we got clear on what it costs to live as her month to month, right? Her personal expenses. And then what she realized was if she was able to make $500 of surplus every month on top of her baseline, she would be able to get 3 months ahead on bills in a matter of 5 months. But then she plugged in different math where she was like, okay, but if I make $1,000 extra in surplus, I'm going to be able to cut that timeline in half. So what she gave herself was some fun possibilities that motivated her to want to make more money because she actually saw the finish line in her future. Now, what I will also say about this too is that attaching yourself to, and this is why I think the reserve feature is so fantastic and why organizing your savings in this way is imperative, because you don't want to attach yourself to a specific number being held and reserved or in your savings. So I've had clients who they hit their $10,000 savings goal and then their income dipped and they had to pull some of it. And they're like, oh, back to square one. It's horrible. I'm so bad at money. And it's like, wait, you actually just flexed your money skills just now by you put money in savings to buffer yourself. But because you didn't have it organized, your brain was like, bad, you took out of savings, right? So I also want to say that even if you have a timeline to get 3 months ahead on bills, there might also be times where then you take money out of it, but then you're going to put money back in. So actually anchoring into your belief and your capability in your money system to refill your reserves rather than basing your worthiness and goodness around money on a specific dollar amount or hitting it in a specific amount of time. I would so much rather it be a slow and steady wins the race than like, we're going to do everything to hit this goal. And then once you hit the goal, it was like, it wasn't really about the goal, right? It was just this number that you wanted to hit to make yourself feel something that then you don't actually feel that safe with.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Mhm.
And that kind of like you're saying, like flexing the money skill of consistency rather than finding the consistency from an external source. And then similarly, like that would be treating the number as just something to reach and then, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
When it's a consistent growth
Yeah.
versus like it's a progression.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
And this is like when we're talking about stability and safety, this is where that mindset stuff comes in. So yes, if you all haven't already registered for that mindset workshop that's coming up, definitely get in on that one, because a number in the bank account, a number in your savings or in your reserves is never going to give you safety if you don't also work on the mental side of things. So part of my story is when I had graduated college, I was so panicked about money, right? Like I was broke actor. And I figured out the system to save more money on fluctuating income. That's the money flow method. That's the cash flow system that I teach. I was able to use that system to save $23,000 as a starving artist, right? I was able to save $23,000, but I was still having panic attacks about money, still stressed that I wasn't going to be able to pay my rent. And at that point, my rent was like less than $1,000 because I was like subletting, I was Airbnb-ing, I was living my vagabond actor life. So I had 23 months. I had 2 years that I could pay my rent in my bank account. And I was still actually having panic attacks that I was broke and that I was gonna run out of money and that I wasn't gonna be able to pay rent next month. And what the dissonance was there was it was about me having a starving artist narrative in my brain. The thoughts that were running as a soundtrack in my brain were, you can't depend on yourself to make more money. You never know when it's going to come in. You need to save as much as possible just in case the other shoe drops. It turned me into a money hoarder, a really anxious money hoarder. So you want to blend the tactical and this emotional mental piece, because this tactical piece is going to get you the $23,000 in the bank account, but then also then implementing some mindset tools and some emotional nervous system regulation as well to actually believe that you're safe and that you do have that stability when you get 3 months ahead on bills, that you actually believe that you've created stability for yourself. Again, anchoring into that self-belief and that self-confidence versus the money that's sitting in the bank account, which we also love. We also want money sitting in your bank account.
May I ask another question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just if there are any other, you mentioned Wave and of course Novo, but are there any other tools that are your go-tos or that were helpful as you were recognizing and making your own shift?
Great question. So tools, I'm actually very anti money app, very anti money app. That being said, you need a bank account and you need bookkeeping software, right? So again, I have Novo, I have Wave. My business banking is a bank called Ally, which has a bucket feature similar to Novo's Reserves, fantastic for personal banking. So those are the money tools that I use. I don't use any spreadsheets. I don't have, any budgeting apps. One of the things, and again, part of my journey was having to pull away from all of the things that were telling me it was going to help me figure out my money. And I had to pull away and start to build that confidence within myself, because these apps could go down tomorrow. There was one, there was a recent, it was a budgeting app that went under that a lot of people used, or that like they just shut down, and they were absorbed by a different money app. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, literally what am I going to do? I don't know how to manage my money outside of this app. And so it was outsourcing your financial autonomy to some fintech that might not exist tomorrow, right? And so being able to have a cash flow system that's agnostic to a certain app or a certain country. Like, let's say you live in the US, but then you decide to move. I had a client move to the UK last year. She was able to take her cash flow system and move it somewhere else. She wasn't dependent on a specific thing. So I love that you asked that question, because one of the things that I'm so passionate about is having systems and ways to manage your money that could be put on any bank, any country, any app, any phase of life, so that you actually you don't need a specific template or an app or whatever it is to be able to feel good and stable with your money.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It brings a lot of agency and like empowerment
It's
to
a great
the business
term.
owner. Yeah.
Yes. My autonomy is my
Mhm.
main like battle cry is autonomy for everything. Autonomy over everything, and financial autonomy is one of the ways you give yourself autonomy overall. Because when you let me there was a quote from Virginia Woolf that I came across today that I think is really important that I say here. She has an essay that is called A Room of One's Own. And she says, a woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. So she was talking about how having access to your own money and having financial autonomy is what actually allowed her to be more creative and actually allowed her to write what she wanted to write. She also talks about having a physical space that's of your own, but money is what gave her that space. So how important the money factor is for having autonomy, and especially as women too, right? The financial abilities we have now, we didn't have very long ago, which is insane to think about. So even being able to like go sign up for Novo today and get your own bank account as a woman who is unmarried, I'm sorry, go flex your feminism right now, right? Like go sign up, go open a credit card. Like all of these things, I think we forget how incredible it is to have autonomy over your money, and how sneaky it can be when it starts to slip away.
And how we can really take control of the mindset and the money simultaneously.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.